Is this good? Cool. Yeah, so today I'm Katie. Like I mentioned, I work on improving things for new users, especially beginners, the cartographic workflow of people moving from print to web mapping is super interesting to me. Also, I apologize, I have a bunch of fancy GIFs that will not be used in this PDF version, but I will post them online so you can ooh and ah about all of our fancy maps that we have at MapZen. So yes, breaking up with Raster and going steady with Vector. Adjusting to new technology can be super hard. It's something I think about constantly in my own job and through being a cartographer formerly. And honestly, like I do view starting a new technology as kind of like starting a new relationship. There's bound to be awkwardness, frustration maybe, but hopefully love in the end. So today I'm going to be talking about a way cartographers can start new relationships with vector tiles for web mapping and how you can explore a new technology without fear of heartbreak. The first part, the breakup. Before we start talking about vector tiles, let's just talk about where things got started really quick. And there is nothing wrong with raster tiles. They're super awesome. I can talk to you about Mapnik and rendering raster tiles till you're tired. But there are some problems with raster tiles. And even though we support them in our renderer Tangram and provide raster terrain tiles, there's some things that people that have worked with web mapping or even just used web maps are pretty familiar with, is that when you don't have a good internet connection or using the data on your phone, we've all seen maps take a while to load. That's a bummer. But you know, raster tiles were really great for the time and super, super useful because they're 256 by 256 pixels of a certain place at a certain zoom level on a web map. And they grow exponentially. So zoom 0 has 1, zoom 1 has 4, zoom 2 has 16, and so on. And they load progressively and do all these great things that were and still continue to be really great. But there were some pains, and I think anyone who has used them are pretty familiar with. The biggest pain that I've realized is that whenever you need to make a style change, you have to do the changes, then send it back to a map server to re-render the tiles. And that can take a lot of time and now forces us to use the base map just as a bottom of the map sandwich, as I like to call it, instead of interacting with it. But lo and behold, vector tiles have become a thing. And they're super exciting because they're really smart. Just like raster tiles were the smart implementation of original web mapping technology, vector tiles continue in gaining more intelligence. So for instance, with the MapZen vector tile, it's no longer a static PNG image. It's actually just data from OpenStreetMap and natural earth data sources cartographers all love and use. And it contains instructions on what can be drawn, rather than something already drawn and styled. So here at MapZen, we offer a vector tile service where you can just grab this data on the fly and insert it into things that you're already using. So the best part about this is if you've already designed raster map tiles, you can try and adding a new vector tile source and see how that works. You can probably imagine, as people that are familiar with raster versus vector data for print mapping, the new changes in vector tiles allow them to be really fast and lightweight, which a lot of great people from Mapbox and Carto will be talking about later. But one of the huge processes that's changing with vector tiles is that we no longer need that map rendering server, which means we can start interacting with the base map and using all that great, delicious data that's in there already. This is a really cool GIF, I promise you. But basically, one of the things we can use, like the OpenStreetMap data coming from our vector tile source, is change the languages on the fly on your screen for mobile or for your desktop computer. Not having to re-render the tiles every single time you're going international and want to allow people to switch to a language they feel comfortable with is a huge change in technology. This is also a cool GIF that I promise you. We have transit data built into our vector tile service, and we can just use that data and just put it and display it through the base map and no longer just on top of it through a GeoJSON format. Again, yes. We have 3D building height information in our vector tiles, so we can use that to do amazing things like rendering three-dimensional maps and just making maps look like magic again. So MapZen's motto is start where you are because we want to meet you at your level of expertise for web mapping and help you start to build a better map. It's a difficult learning curve for cartographers especially when there's new technology, but not necessarily ways they can meet you at your learning curve. And we want you to access the full capabilities of vector tiles without having to compromise your workflow. And that's why MapZen's products are all free, open source, and completely customizable. We want you to either dip your toe into the realm of possibilities or just straight cannonball in and break all of our things, please. We would love that. And one of the easiest ways you can do that is just starting with a base map. We offer 6 beautiful base maps designed by Nathaniel von Kelso and Geraldine Sarmiento, who are great Stamen alumni, and design base maps that are meant to show all the different possibilities for web mapping, from data overlay maps that we call toner, by Stamen, or great navigational base maps. We also have 2 brand new styles released this summer that use our Raster terrain service with our outdoor map in the middle called Walkabout. Super great if you're exploring Colorado Springs later this weekend. And our latest style is Tron. If you guys have seen the blog post that just went out last week, all of this is animated, so showing a picture is a little disappointing. But I promise you that the water, the cars, the streets, everything can be animated using GL technology that we have available. One of the newest things that we're working on is a way to meet you halfway for mapping. And instead of having you just have to build everything through a text editor, we're working on building a editor online called Tangram Play. It's not released yet, but I know how mappers like to try new technology. So if you go to mapzen.com/tangram/play, you can start playing with it. I was going to do a live demo, but obviously that's not going to work today. You can also take all of our data, like I mentioned, and use it separately in something you're already using. You can use D3, Open Layers, Mapbox Studio GL, or Mapbox GL, Mapbox Studio Classic, however you prefer. We want you to play and explore with this new technology. But don't worry, I haven't left you people who still love making print maps like I do as well. We have a really fun tool that allows you to do SVG exports into Illustrator or Inkscape with our vector tiles. It's a fun thing we like to hack on the weekends. Starting a new relationship with technology can be really tough. Sometimes there are growing pains, frustration even. But I think we can find love in the end with our tiling scheme, at least I hope so. There's so many changes that are happening with vector technology that we should just start exploring the new frontier of mapping. And we would love you to do that with our tiles at MapZen. So come find me or some of our other people at MapZen this week and talk to us about how you can get started. Thank you.
Coming to you, Carl.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for a great talk. You may have heard me bellyache about my lover's quarrels with vector tiles in the past, but this question keeps coming up for me. I have my now retired circa 2007 laptop decorating my office closet at home that I was using until recently that has a graphics card that does not support WebGL. And I'm still working on a project for using a custom tile set for a map of Africa that will be used, of a part of Africa that will be used by officials in Africa. So, what kind of tile set should I use? And think Africa, think computers that may be 10 years old. What kind of tile set should I use?
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge problem. And I agree with you. There are some problems with using GL technology. But like I said, our vector tile service can be inserted into something like Open Layers or D3 that might allow for that to load more efficiently without having to use a GL renderer.
Just as an extension of that previous question, I guess, does MapZen have any kind of information on what percentage of users have the capability to render these vector tiles in their PCs and web browsers?
I don't know if we have that data necessarily. It's something that we take into consideration with GL, and we want to focus on that while also not leaving people behind. So you don't have to use all these crazy shaders and animations, and that might make something more lightweight. Our packaged base maps also totally work through Leaflet and another renderer that doesn't require GL, so that might be something useful.
Any other questions? Alrighty. Then we will move on to the next talker. Thanks, Katie.